If there are mysteries you want to know, she's gonna crack the code. Unsolved Science Mysteries with your host, Heather Richard. This week's special episode, The Case of the Ghost Biofilm. This week on Unsolved Science Mysteries, I take a trip to the Romberg-Tiberand Center where graduate researcher Heather Richard is facing an unusual result from an experiment deploying glass, plastic, and polylactic acid beads into the San Francisco Bay. Her results indicate the presence of a supernatural biofilm. My name's Heather. I study organisms that live on plastic debris. Bacteria and algae colonize plastic, forming a biofilm that takes up heavy metals, which then in turn might be transferred to organisms that eat the plastic. To understand this, Heather must quantify the layer of bacteria and algae that live on the surface of the plastic. To do this, she uses an indicator dye called crystal violet. This is crystal violet. It's a positively charged dye that sticks to organic biomass. I stain my beads with this dye, and then I remove the dye with ethanol and measure how purple the solution is to indirectly measure how much biomass is on the beads. On May 18th, 2015, Heather was in for the surprise of her research career. When glass beads that had never been touched by the San Francisco Bay indicated that there was a presence of biofilm. The day started out normal. I came into the lab to quantify the biofilm on the beads, and I thought, this is going to be easy. I'm going to stain the beads, and there's not going to be any stain on them because I know there's no biofilm. This is just day 0. And, it's what we call a negative control. I thought I knew. The biomass assay went as expected for low-density polyethylene and polylactic acid materials. However, glass beads, which as we expect showed no sign of biofilm on day 0, stain very brightly with the crystal violet. It's only after the beads are immersed in the bay we see the biofilm coating, as we'd expect, and yet when we dye them, there seems to be less dye on the ones that have been in the bay. From then on, Heather's negative control was called Heather's negative out of control. If you look at the graph, the biofilm is way higher on day 0 than it is on day 1. I mean, look at the error bars. They're small. They're standard deviation. This is not a random result. This is real. We visited the lab where Heather analyzes the results. Without knowledge of why these glass beads are giving false positive results, moving forward with analyzing the heavy metals they pick up will be more complicated. I know that things not going to plan is a normal part of science. I think every grad student goes through this. I'm here with another graduate researcher at the Romberg-Tiberand Center. Can you tell us about the unexpected results you've had in your research? My research is going perfectly. I haven't had any unexpected results. Heather, do you think your results indicate the presence of a supernatural biofilm? I'm sorry, can you say that again? The biofilm. Is it possible that this came from another universe, another dimension, makes it invisible to the human eye? I don't think it's anything like that. This is something having to do with physics or chemistry. I don't think we can find evidence to support supernatural biofilms. Can you find evidence to show that it isn't a supernatural biofilm? Let's get to work. Last we heard, Heather still hasn't found the reason why crystal violet is sticking to the glass beads. If you or anyone you know has any information that will lead to Heather finding the answer, go to the website below and contact Heather right away. You may be eligible for a $5,000 reward. I'm sorry, that's a $5 reward. $5. Thank you. Have a good night. This has been Unsolved Science Mysteries with your host, Heather Richard. Tune in next week while Heather figures out why the filtered seawater isn't filtered.